Jayne Sibley, co-founder and CEO of Sibstar. Thank you so much for joining us for this EPA and Mastercard Project Inclusion report on lifestyle and values-based banking. We're thrilled to have you with us. Thank you so much for taking part. It would be amazing to begin with getting a sense of your story, your background, and how Sibstar came to be.
Sure, thanks for having me. So yes, I'm Jayne. I'm one of the co-founders at Sibstar, which is a new debit card and app for people living with dementia. And the idea for Sibstar came from my own personal experience. So I have two parents living with dementia, and my dad now lives in a high dependency nursing home, but my mum is still living at home, supported by me and my brother. And my mum and dad faced many challenges as part of their dementia, but certainly one of the hardest was helping my mum manage her day-to-day money. So as her disease progressed, then her ability to understand the value of money and manage her everyday spending started to disappear. So she was falling victim to scams over the phone. She was taking money out of the cash point and giving it to people living on the street. She was spending a huge amount of money on food. It was all rotting in the fridge. So all of the money that mum and dad had worked hard for all their lives was sort of being frittered away in ways that she would just not have spent had she not had a diagnosis of dementia. And despite trying lots of different solutions, cash only, taking the checkbook away, scratching the CVV out on the back of the card, trying to set limits on cash points through her high street bank, none of it really worked. And we were really only left with having to take away access to her own money, which was a really difficult decision. But the circumstances were that we were just left with no choice. But that immediately had an effect on her mental well-being, and her condition declined, I would say, even more rapidly. She wasn't able to go out. She wasn't able to walk to the corner shop and buy that pint of milk and chat to the neighbours on the way, or get the bus to Sainsbury's to buy her dinner that day. So her world shrank. Yeah, as I'm sure you know, the routine familiarity for people living with dementia is essential. So we needed to find a way of helping mum remain financially independent, because she was capable in so many ways. She just needed the financial tools to allow her to do that. So we came up with the idea of Sibstar. So that is a debit card that's preloaded with money, and the management of that money is managed through an app on the carer's phone. So at the moment, those carers we imagine those carers to be sons, daughters, nieces and nephews, rather than professional carers at the moment. But what we are all about is enabling someone with dementia to remain financially independent. We are not a carer card. We are not about giving a card to a carer and that carer spending on the vulnerable adult's behalf. We're all about saying, let's keep going. This is a way of enabling you to live your life the way you choose, because you have the financial means to do it. You can continue to be financially included in the world. And not only does that have huge benefits on people living with dementia, it benefits carers as their caring responsibilities are delayed or lightened for a while. And then importantly, by keeping people living with dementia active and part of their communities, we start to slowly improve understanding, reduce stigmas around dementia, because we're living in a world where people living with dementia can operate well within their own communities.
Jayne, thanks so much for sharing. I know it's an incredibly personal mission, and something which I think I shared just before we set the interview, something I do have some experience of, and the importance of dignity in enabling people who suffer from dementia is so incredibly important. Could you maybe talk us through where you are currently with Sibstar in terms of the products that you're offering, and maybe if you can relate that to the particular problems that you're solving, and relating the two together?
Yeah, sure. So we are right in the middle of development right now. So we've not launched yet, but we're set to launch in September, fingers crossed, if everything goes to plan. The card is being manufactured, the app is being built, so it's a really exciting stage for us. This journey started way back in September 2019 when I wrote an application form to the Alzheimer's Society Accelerator Programme, and we won a place on that accelerator programme, and that was a real game changer for us. It was a real moment of, oh my goodness, the UK's largest dementia charity, like what we're doing, they're going to back us. Okay, this could really be something. So that was brilliant. It gave us the support, the encouragement, and their belief in us then and over these last couple of years that we've been working with them has been critical to our success. Without the backing of that charity, I don't think we would be where we are. So over the last couple of years, we've been raising money, developing our product, working with people living with dementia and their carers to co-create product with them to make sure it meets their needs. And the product we launch in September will meet that unmet need in the marketplace. And that's very important because people living with dementia have some very specific needs. And we hope that Sibstar will, and we believe that Sibstar will address those.
Jayne, would you be able to share with us some of the needs that you've identified, especially the end user? And maybe whilst you're sharing what those needs are, if you wouldn't also mind sharing, because I know we spoke briefly about the existing system from your own experience and how that quite didn't work despite interventions from yourself. Yeah. And if you could maybe elaborate on that a little bit for us.
Yeah. So Sibstar, the key features, and I think the key uniqueness about Sibstar is that it is secure and it's flexible. So my mum, she slowly started to lose her ability to understand her money. It didn't happen overnight. Beginning, she was perhaps just overspending. Then as the months went on, she started taking out 2 or 3 cash point withdrawals a day, and that money was either disappearing or ending up in the drawer in the lounge or just disappearing entirely until I found out it was being given to another vulnerable adult living on the street outside the supermarket. So what we're trying to do is address those address those needs, but in a way that can be adapted as the condition progresses. So for example, at the beginning, when you have a Sibstar card, you may have all of the functionality turned on. So you may be able to use the card at a cash point on the high street, online, on the phone. But as your condition progresses, you may switch off cash points. So you can still use it in the high street, but you're not exposed to taking 3 cash point withdrawals out each day and then losing that money. You can also set how much money you can take out of the cash point. So that might just be it might be £50 to begin with, it might be £10 later on. You can set daily spending limits. So for example, my mum was spending more on food than I was each week. So being able to say, actually, you have that money can be just £15 a day, then that sort of just ring fences the available money. That can be changed at any point, and that's very important that carers and people living with dementia have that discussion together to agree what those the manage of how that money is going to be managed. It's not done in isolation of the person with dementia. Their opinion and their voice is important. So it's about working together and setting Sibstar and using Sibstar in a way that meets that individual person's needs.
It's such an incredible balance that you're trying to strike, especially as a condition deteriorates. I'd love to get a sense from you of how you balance that sense of autonomy over decision making and how that progresses, especially with family members. And your thoughts on that would be amazing. And then I guess the question that we've been asking a lot of other entities who are broadly in the values and lifestyle-based banking space is, how has the current financial system not worked to cater for the group that you are set up to cater for? And why hasn't it worked? I think it's an important question to understand, to overcome maybe existing challenges and for us all to become more inclusive to the group that that we both know are in need of accessible financial services.
Yeah. Well, I think, and this is coming from my own personal experience, I think the bank, the sort of high street bank that Mum was banking with, like many banks, are limited by their size and their systems and their processes, and maybe those banks aren't able to react as quickly and nimbly to these quite specific needs of vulnerable adults, as well as a startup could. I think the idea of Sibstar directly come from my lived experience. I have direct insight into what it feels like to be caring for somebody on the ground who is exposed to these, their finances are exposed in this way. We did try a few solutions with the high street bank that Mum was banking with. Like I said at the beginning, we scratched out the CVV, but then Mum would lose the card and the bank rightly would send her a new card, and then the whole cycle would start over again, and she'd fall victim to another scam over the phone before I could get there and realise that this whole card system was being got into a mess. I think she had 10 cards lost or reported lost or in her purse at any one time. It's quite messy, it's quite and it's quite admin heavy for a carer to try and manage somebody else's finances. So I think the will is there amongst those high street banks. Certainly some of the ones I've spoken to are very interested and encouraging into what we're doing. But sometimes their scale and size don't allow them to react quite as nimbly to these individual needs.
Thank you, Jayne.
And then you asked me a question about autonomy.
Yeah, please, no. And the question about how are you striking the balance between, and this relates to actually the question I was just about to follow up with, which is around agency. So of course, we are doing this through the prism of financial inclusion. And the underlying premise is, I think the notion of inclusion traditionally is whether you have a bank account or you don't. And I think what's becoming very clear, and through the example that you gave, your very personal experience of your own family, is you can have a bank account and still be essentially financially excluded because you're being underserved based on the needs that you have and you know the set of conditions in life that are either restricting you or limiting you. And in that prism, why is it so important to have a sense of, I guess, dignity in this space? Why is this so important? And then on top of that, trying to find a sense from you of how you're striking that balance between agency and dignity, and especially as a condition deteriorates, how you are then ensuring that that is maintained effectively, which I assume is one of the more difficult things which a large financial institution or a high street bank can't really give the resources to cater for.
So I believe financial inclusion is central to the well-being of somebody living with dementia. Having the ability to live your normal life the way you want to and the way you choose to do that is imperative to your sense of identity, your sense of value. And so much about dementia strips away. And what we're about is saying, have this. This is Sibstar is a means to enable you to go for that cup of coffee with your friend, do that yoga class you've always done, do that round of golf that you've always done, buy that round in your local pub that you've always done, because by being involved in your community, being involved with your family is what's going to enable you to retain your sense of self for longer. And I believe financial inclusion and products like Sibstar enable that and empower that. And really that is the premise of our business. It is all about serving those families like mine and having the impact, having a positive social impact on those families living with dementia, of which there are so many.
Your very pertinent way of explaining the importance of dignity, identity, and especially in fighting a disease that takes that away from you, which makes it all the more pressing to keep it up, shows me, and I think it's interesting when I think about the work that we're doing through this financial inclusion project, there's a spectrum, if you will, of consumer-based needs. And those needs might be environmental concerns, some might be faith-based concerns. They are all ultimately the needs of a consumer that is being challenged by the existing provision of the financial system. And what's incredibly powerful about what you've just described is perhaps the most pressing sense of the current system is so binary because of the nature of how it works, that an individual who you want to retain their dignity and to retain that sense of self, as you described, by the current system and its model, as you personally experienced, you've got to take away the card because it doesn't have the nuances of what you need to happen. And Sibstar has come in and is given that accompanying hand along the way to retain that sense of self as it, I assume, degenerates and deteriorates. So I think that's incredibly powerful. So thank you so much for sharing that. And what would be really amazing as well is if you, because I know you talked about co-creation, if you could maybe explain to us how the development of your products and services are happening at the moment, and especially how you are getting the input from your end user.
Yeah, sure. So yes, Sibstar, we've developed Sibstar alongside people living with dementia and their carers. It was really important to us that although we thought we had this great product idea, it was really important that we can't just use a sample of one of me and my mum. We needed to ask more people. So the Alzheimer's Society have been brilliant at supporting us with that research, and we ran a piece of quant at the end of last year, and then we followed that up with qual and then workshops with as I say, people living with dementia and their carers. And really that was to get a sense of, what do you think of this idea? How will it fit with the life that you live and how you are dealing with your dementia at the moment? What else could we do? Here are some ideas and some functionality that the product could include. Do you like that? Do you not? What other ideas do you have? And then very importantly, how do we talk about this product to you? Because the language that we use around dementia, and there's lots of work going on in this space, both in terms of language and how we portray actually older people in general in our media. How do you want us to talk to you? What language should we use and what should we avoid? We're not here to patronize, we're here to come alongside these families and provide a product and service that will fit within your lives. That product needs to work, but also all of our communications need to work as well. And that's a challenge as a startup. You know, we're launching this business on a shoestring. We have raised some money, but we don't have big communications budgets to do big marketing campaigns and get out there. So actually, working with people living with dementia and their carers to try and get that right from the outset is really important, because then hopefully they will come.
No, thank you. And are there any, and I'm thinking what you've just described is, you know, any minority group, any underrepresented group within a system of exclusion, if you will, of financial services, are going through the exact same challenges that you're experiencing, which is you're here to serve a particular need and don't probably have the resources to seek them out immediately. Are there any tips, pearls of wisdom that you've encountered that you could share with the community of other fintechs that are starting up, or within the broader realm of financial inclusion that you think might be helpful?
Yeah, this is an interesting question. I feel like I don't come from a banking or finance background at all. I knew nothing about banking and finance before I started this journey. So I've learned a lot over the last couple of years, 18 months or so. But and I'm by no means an expert in any of this at all. Sibstar has been absolutely 100% believe this product is needed and it meets an unmet need that is out there. And for me, that has, I've not ever doubted that. And I think that has driven me through. So that sort of single-minded, I have to do this. I know it's needed. I've got to put my all into it. And I'm really determined to just give it my best shot. That's absolutely been the driving force. And the opportunity that it our product may make life easier for other families like mine is absolutely a driver. I think that's helped, having that single-minded focus. I think the other thing that's helped for me, given that I don't come from this sector at all, is surrounding myself with people who do know. So we've had some amazing people advise us, and I'm really grateful to them who've given their time for free. And having that team of experts and senior people saying, I believe in this too. Okay, I'm going to help you. You need to do this, or you need to do that, or have you thought about this? Has definitely given me the support and encouragement to keep going. So yeah, so surround yourself by people who know more than you.
That's really useful advice. And as somebody who also equally does not have a conventional banking finance background, I can really understand what you were describing there. Maybe just to finish off, it's been remarkable listening to the story of Sibstar, the problem that you're trying to solve, the journey that you've been on. What's next for Sibstar? What can we look forward to?
Yeah, well, launching in September, that is going to be a great moment when that first person makes that first transaction on that card, even if it's for 59p for a pint of milk, we'll be like, yes, we've done it. So that is a really exciting moment. And then we just want to keep developing our product. We want to set up an innovation working group with people living with dementia and carers, and so they sit at the heart of our business and they continue to shape our product, continuing to build into that tailored functionality, so our product is more and more meeting those specific needs. And we want to get it out there, and we want to get more and more people benefiting from it. So the marketing side and the communication side is going to be really important, because these are the people that we're here to serve, and we want to serve more and more of those people.
Really well said. Jayne, thank you so much for taking part in this Project Inclusion Values and Lifestyle-Based Banking report, which is being done by the EPA and supported by Mastercard. Your story is an incredible one. You are serving a community that really is clearly one in need, and we look forward to seeing lots of progress and momentum, and to see where you head up. And really good luck ahead of, we're a month away, aren't we, from launch?
Yes,
good luck for next month. Thank you so much, Jayne.